What's good? What's good? Welcome, people. Welcome to my channel. In this one, we're gonna talk about trends. America runs on trends. In my 24 years, I realized that America, meaning the United States, where I live, runs on trends. I noticed this in early high school at first, but I thought that this was normal, and I thought it was because we were all kids. So I thought because we're all young, all we know is trends. But what surprised me was that when these trends continued indefinitely and they began to bleed into each other, I'm trying to speak through my mouth because one comment told me to stop speaking through my nose, so I'm attempting to speak through my mouth now. Let's see if this works or not. What surprised me even more was that the majority of people around me took these trends seriously. So people lived and died on these trends. And it actually got worse in college. From when I was in high school to college, it got worse. When I was in undergrad from 2014 to 2017, this is when Instagram, Tinder, Grindr for gay people. And I had some friends that were gay. Not me though. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I do live in California, and it actually turned out that a couple of my best friends were gay. They were struggling with it at first, at the beginnings of college, but then they kind of realized it during college, so that was interesting. And I found out that that may or may not be a trend as well. But getting back to the script here, Grindr for gay dudes. All that stuff got huge, and not to mention getting nudes on Snapchat. That was huge. These trends had a huge impact on the social sphere of college. In a sense, they were the social sphere of college. Fraternities and sororities were also very popular in college. Furthermore, there was a trend in the professional fraternities, which I tried to join, and funny enough, the hazing was worse in the professional fraternities than the social fraternities, as far as I witnessed. But there's a trend in the professional fraternities of women joining. So women join professional fraternities a lot, and they wanted to encourage this. The administration seemed to encourage this, which, with more women joining the workplace, that makes sense, doesn't it? And I went to a pharmacy school shortly after undergrad, so that makes sense. A healthcare profession, these are mostly women now. And our class kind of reflected this. It was about 60% women, and it was like 40%, it was a little bit under, I think it was like 39 point something percent men, and 60+% women. So of course they're going to be joining the professional fraternities, right? To get those professional connections and whatnot. I mean, they are the professional connections, being 60% of the healthcare workforce. So moving on here, the script. I saw this both in undergrad and pharmacy school in terms of women joining these professional fraternities. It wasn't until I got out of college, which was ironically a couple weeks prior to COVID lockdowns, and that's a whole different story that I might go over in another video. But it wasn't until I got out of college that I began to learn about some of the greater trends of the past decades that were occurring even before I was in high school. So over this past year, I got familiar with feminism, toxic masculinity, birth control pills, cultural hegemony, loose women, printing money, inflated currencies, red pills, and men going their own way, among other trends. And also declining birth rates. I started to understand the implications of that. I'm 24 years old, so I started to really understand the implications of these trends and how they affected my cohort without us even realizing it. And mind you, I'm probably one of the only people that really look into these trends, to be honest. So these things are affecting all of us without us even really noticing it, trying to learn about it, or really caring about it, to be honest. That's when I realized about all of these structures, social structures, and all these trends. That's when I really began realizing, okay, so we're very affected by this. Even if we don't notice or care, people are very affected by this kind of stuff. Affected so much so to the point that we don't even notice or care because it just runs in the background. At 24 years old, 50 years ago, and 100 years ago, the same biology is occurring, because remember, our evolution as humans doesn't change. Our biology doesn't change in 100 years. Like, it takes a lot longer for something, like for just you as an ape or me as an ape to change fundamentally. But social structures and social trends change greatly in 100 years and 50 years. Like, those, you could change the whole basis of a society within 50 years, within 2 or 3 generations. And that could have a big influence on the people, but the biology is the same. My mind got completely blown, to be honest. And the whole thing of COVID, the fact that you could convince everybody that it was a good idea to not pass laws, but you could convince people it was a good idea to stay inside for over a year, and to have that encouraged on a mass scale. That was when I realized the impact of social trends and social pressures and all that stuff on humans. Because for something like that to work for a year now, that really told me a lot. So, and I left, like, when I was in school, I had an inkling of this kind of stuff, but I did not know the full impact at all, to be honest, until this past year. So, oh yeah, and then the last trend, the declining health of our population. I got that a lot. I learned about a lot of that when I was in school, so that's kind of my background. And it was this past year, I've put the declining health of our population into the context of all these other trends, like feminism, birth control, and all, like, inflation, printing money, and all this stuff. And now it starts to just make a lot of sense. When I was in school, a lot of it didn't make sense to me. I was like, wait, how come? It made so little sense to me when I was in school, to the point where I was kind of frustrated. But getting out of school, I was like, oh, okay, it just made a lot of sense. The drugs that people are on, the diseases that people have, just makes a ton of sense now. Like, so much sense to the point where, like, it's kind of scary, to be honest. Like, yeah, straight up facts, it's kind of scary, to be honest. So moving on, these are all the trends and the small scale trends that you witness in your day-to-day, or month-to-month, or year-to-year, are reflections of the larger scale trends of decades. So beware of the trends that run in the background, like a program on your computer. So yeah, like a program on your computer, these trends kind of start running in the background. When you're younger, you're more aware of all of these trends and, like, the shifts in the trends, because you and your cohort are kind of learning together about, okay, what's going on, what should I be into, what should I not be into. And since that's all you know, really, unless you have, like, a difficult family life for whatever reason, you're very just cognizant of these trends because that's all you know. So that's how people kind of rank how cool they are and all that kind of childhood stuff. But when you get older, these trends start to run in the background once you get kind of your life going, so to speak, and you have your own experiences, these trends start to run in the background, but they still have that baseline effect. They're still the baseline of society. They're the undercurrent of society, these trends. And that's when you kind of start to, especially if you don't learn about some of this stuff, you'll notice the things that are kind of stupid, quote unquote, but if you don't put that into the context of the greater what's going on, then you'll just say, hey, that's stupid, and you'll never think twice about it. And that's what I did, honestly, for a lot. Like, I never really thought twice about it until this past year. Then I was like, okay, let me go into this research here, and then my mind got blown. So I'll never overlook a seemingly stupid trend again, to be honest. So yeah, MGTOWs don't really follow trends, do we? That's my question to you. Do we or do we not?
Now we come
and
to
stay
a special
tuned.
request.
Yeah, stay tuned to the channel. So yeah, that's it for now. I'll catch y'all later. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Stay healthy. Peace out.
This song is called Roots and Culture. Skip, skip it up, skip, skip it up, skip it up, skip, school, yeah. Skip, skip it up, skip, skip it up, skip it up, skip, school, yeah. Don't you bite the ends, I'll feed you, my bitch, know. Don't you bite the ends, I'll feed you. Don't you burn your bridges and behind you, my bitch, know. Don't you burn your bridges and behind you. Cause if you burn your bridges down, that is the wrong thing to do. The good you do today will surely live after you. I say, don't you bite the ends, I'll feed you, my bitch, know. Don't you bite the ends, I'll feed you. Don't you burn your bridges then behind you, my bitch, know. Don't you burn your bridges then behind you. Cause you never miss the water till